Alright, this next video is specifically related to removing staff members from the system if they no longer work here, or adding them if they begin to work here. Also, there's the case of adding Realestate and Bodycorps um, to the database, and then there's another area of receiving stock from suppliers and distributing them to the particular utes and locations and so forth. So let's go ahead and try and cover those areas. So firstly, we have our Roshtek inventory manager, the front or back end or whatever you want to call it. And as you can see here, it's got your different fields. Okay, now we've really only covered this one area, which is the inventory area. If we are wanting to, let's say for instance, add and remove plumbers, it happens under an application setup. What you will find with inside the company field, there will be your different areas of people. So there's four kinds of groups of people. There's your employees, your customers, your manufacturers, and your suppliers. Now, ideally, I think the only three we're using are employee, customer, and supplier. So for instance, if I go employee and search, we will see that this is the Mackie Plumbing site. I can then look inside there and I will see each of the employees and the vehicles that are allocated to them, which will then allow me to add them or take them, give them jobs, without the user actually put in the system. There's no real way that you can properly administer the plumbers. So you can see here. Now, to actually add or remove a plumber, it happens from here. What we'll do is we'll just go back first. And I just want you to be sure that what happens is when you are in the company field and you choose your employees and search, you will in fact get the company, because you could have multiple plumbing businesses and you could have multiple employees within that business. So in this case, what we're doing is we are just basically looking at the fact that we want to change an employee's information. We've got two fields here. We've got the main company. It's actually three: your address and your contacts. So in this section here, basically we just update the addresses. If in fact I had multiple addresses, I could put them in here, but at this stage there's really only one address. Then your next field is actually contacts, which would be the employees. I know it sounds weird, but they've been named at that convention. If I want to make changes to any of the employees, it's simple by easily selecting the employee and pressing update, and I can manipulate his field, put his mobile phone, email, or what have you. And on the same instance, I can also turn around and delete that user. So very simple and easy to use, but an important area that you need to be aware of. Alright, our next part to cover also is we'll drop back here and we'll have a look at, we've got our suppliers. At this stage we really only have two suppliers, but it's still relevant. So we fill their details in and put all that information in, which helps with the overall background workings of the database. You've also got your customers, which would be what we call our body corporate and real estate agents. You can see here that we've got them categorized from their two different departments, and we've tried to fill in all the relative information to suit that actual client. So if we have a look in here and look at the information, you can see that I'm providing the address as well as a actual contact, website, and what kind of tariff that it actually is set by, which is important. Everything at this stage is set to a standard price tariff, and our pensioners are only given discounts which is done pretty manually because they're not a body corporate and they're not in the system. It'll automatically be aware of that and know that it's a private sale, and then it'll ask you whether it's a pensioner or not. So you'll see that covered later on. So you can see here that's where we have our body corporates, and much the same. We can insert them, update them, and remove them as we see fit. So I think we've actually covered the three. We've covered employees, our customers, and our supplier. If I believe there isn't a manufacturer, because we don't manufacture anything, or no one actually manufactures anything, they just supply us. Alright, so that is covering the two options of removing and adding plumbers and staff, and adding new database details like Realestate and Bodycorp. Now, one of the next areas is, let's just assume that we receive some stock from a supplier. If it was in fact a new stock item, we would have to go to the items location. So we have a supplier supplies with a new item that we haven't had in stock before. We would actually go to the items window, as I was mentioning before. Alright, and what we'd be able to do is we would be able to add a new item. So when adding a new item, there are three kinds of items. There are a standard item, an assembly item, and a kit item. We ideally use the kit and the standard items. Now the next section is, our item number is in fact a barcode. So when we produce a barcode, we're producing a barcode number within this field here. Just to give you a bit of a quick understanding, let's see if I can break open the barcode label making software. See if I can get it to go with all this other software running in the background. And so here we have it. Here it is. We've got a bit of an example here. I've created some presets for Dennis to use as examples for his barcodes. See if this opens up without any problems. Okay, and as you can see here, here's a barcode. Now, this is the barcode that would probably be generated by the company for that item. So let's just say we were creating a barcode. We would look on the side of the box, like, oh, can I give you an example? If you look at my drink, you've got a barcode here. Now I can actually read the numbers along the bottom here, and I can put them inside this location here, which will help identify the situation, so the item. So if I was to put this iced coffee on the list, I'd go and put the barcode in, which is 93102329555520. And ideally that number, when created by a particular standard, barcode standard, would in fact be, I would change it and it would look, finish, something like that. So that barcode would be located on the milk container, but in this instance I'm just showing you how we can create a barcode to put on an item. Nonetheless, we'll go back here and you can see we've created a barcode for this Dare Iced Coffee. Now let's continue going down the path. We're going to call it, we're going to make this Dare Iced Coffee an item for your entertainment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Dare Iced Coffee. What are you going to say? Because We'll be a bit descriptive. 1% fat. Now we'll give it a category. Now by default we've been giving everything a category of 1000, category number. Now this item is actually a material, it's not a description or a labor. Like for instance, I'll explain that later. If we were writing an information field that didn't consist of any pricing, it was just a description barcode for the pushing of information onto invoices. Like in the booklet we have all of those different descriptive codes, as you know what I mean. Now the next one here is the manufacturer. Now we don't have manufacturers as such, so that actually does stay blank. Now this dare iced coffee, it might have cost me about $2.50 on a wholesale price. I am going to sell it for $3.95 to any regular employees or regular customers. And for my pensioners, I would actually charge them $3. So you can see how that is actually working there, giving you a price structure depending on what kind of customer they are. So you can see here I've created an item. We've given it a barcode. This we're going to give it a practice item 001, just as an alternative barcode. And as you can see here, we have produced a standard item. I'll save that. It says please add tax. You must remember to put the 10% tax threshold. Now once we've done that, we have created that dare iced coffee. Okay. Now the reason why I'm showing you how to create it is because, of course, what you need to understand that the field of items is where we actually have our items and the information that's embedded about those items. Where inventory is more about where the item is located. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is I've put that item in the database, the new item, and if I actually go and say I want to see how many of those in the warehouse and I do a search, you will see there are none. Because we might have put it in the system, but we actually haven't told the system where there are any or how many they are. So what we do is we receive the item. And when we receive the item, one thing we need to make sure is that we're in the warehouse, for instance. Now I am going to add 5 dare iced coffees to the warehouse. So I'm going to go receive. I am going to do a bit of a search for the dare iced coffee by pasting in its barcode and doing a search. I can see here is the item that we created. Okay, the practice item. I'm going to select that. I'm going to in fact put 30 of these items in stock, and I am going to accept that by receiving. So we've got the barcode, we know what it is, we selected it. It's never seen any of this information before, so it's generally blank, and it's asking us how many items we got as this new stock item. So when we go press receive, it will tell me that the inventory would like to give me a bit more information, provide a bit more information. Would I like to create a new inventory item? And I'd say yes. So what that means is now this barcode is represented for that bottle, and we have now in the location of the warehouse got 30. Now if I'm going, my minimum amount that I ever want to have in the shop is 2. So what I want to do is put 2 so that it flags when we're down to 2, and whenever we get down to 5 we need to make a reorder, so the software will flag and inform us that it is time to do a reorder. So when I access that and I OK that and OK this, you can now see that I have provided 60 chocolate iced coffees in the warehouse shed, but in fact there are none in any of the vehicles. because I haven't inventoried and told the system where they are in fact located. So if I wanted to add some iced coffees from the warehouse to the ute, I would firstly go receive. I would go and look for that item. Okay, do a bit of a search. Here it is here. I select it. I say that I want to put 5 in the ute. Okay, and every time we get down to a minimum stock item of 1, I want to have the database inform me of that matter. So we have just created a iced coffee 10 in stock for the warehouse, for U1. As you can see, in this situation and the way that it's set up and the way that I did this job, it in fact didn't recognize that I'm moving any stock from anywhere. It's just adding that stock free will as I decide on which department it goes in. So I must suggest that you need to keep that in mind, and if you are moving something from the warehouse to a ute, that it will change. For instance, I put 60 stock item there. If I actually search over here, you can see I've got 10 and we've got 60. So we know that it didn't go down by 10 when I moved it across. If I wanted to resolve that fault, I could do many things, but probably the easiest way to resolve this issue would to go back into this item, go to the warehouse, do a stock take, look for that item in the warehouse, okay, and then I would actually reduce that amount by 50, okay, because I took 10 from one location and moved it to a U. There are other ways of doing it, but I think this is probably the best way to do it from this end. We can give it a bit of a go at doing a move now. So what we'll do is we'll close this window, we'll go to a U2, and we are going to move. I think this is the correct way to go. So we want to move it from I do apologize. What I'm going to do is drop back. Just drop back. What we need to be is in the warehouse. I do apologize. We'll do that search. We can see it's there. We are going to move it. So we're going to click on move. We're going to go and look for that item. So we put the barcode in here. Here is the barcode. We've got 50 in stock. We need to tick that and to move it across. And it's going to ask me, oh, cancel. We want to actually delete that. Whoops. Firstly, what we need to do is provide where we want to put it. So in this instance, we're wanting to put it in U2 so that we can see it move across. And we've selected that item. And then we're moving just that one item. We're going to say we're going to remove 5 of them and put 5 in U2. So when I in fact do that, when I do the move, you will see that it's dropped down to 45. And when we come over here and have a look at that item, it is dropped to 45 here. Now if I went to U2, you'd see there were 5 in stock. So you can see how I successfully moved around items by using the stock take feature and the receive feature. Now the other areas we'll go over later, as it seem to be less important. It's all about actually trying to get the jobs out at this stage and less about trying to teach you stuff that is unnecessary to learn. Alright, so what we've covered is removing plumbers and staff and adding them, your real estate, and receiving and stock from suppliers, and how to implement and install them into the server. So just a quick rundown. We created it within items. We gave it all of the relevant information of how it costed and so forth. And then we went to inventory and we added it to these first three. The warehouse, U1 and U2. So you can see that is not a very difficult exercise. I think anyone can do that. Not a bad feature at all. Now, at the end of the day, we've created an item and added it in. But let's just say we'll look at a different scenario. Yeah, a different scenario. One of the areas that we haven't covered is there is more than we do have three kinds of items, as we are aware. We have got the item itself, we've got kit items and assembly items. Now, one of the things that you will need to be aware of is how to create a new kit item, which is a kit is multiple items in one bag to provide a kit of information. So, like for instance, you know, when changing a tap, you wouldn't just have a washer and the tap head and so forth. You would have a series of different parts. They're pre-bagged and ready to do that job, so that there's less kerfuffle with parts. So in this stage, like if we were going to create an item, let's create a Christmas holiday package. I'll be putting that in there. I could even generate a barcode from that, which wouldn't be a cool barcode, but I could. Maybe I want to give it a description of that as opposed to a we could call it Xmas 0001. We could then, for instance, provide a barcode for that. So we'll just crank that open. And I could then create my own barcode or use provided by the supplier. Come on, open up. So I can go finish a new code with a new code ID that is relevant to where we're at now. So we've created a kit. We've given it some items. We can give it a price if we wanted to, what we want to sell it for, and what our pensioner cost is. So that's how much the pensioner will be paying. So you can see what I mean about the whole making sure you set it up properly. So we've created some items, some prices, how much it costs, how much we're selling it for, and how much we're selling it to for pensioners, which is pretty lame, but that's how it looks. So the important part is to make sure that we're making it a material and we're going to add a kit. Now when we add kits, you can see that I'm able to go into this field. If I had this item here, I can't. If I was using this, I could. But generally, we use the new kit item. What we would do is we'd be able to look for the items. We would add an item. It needs me to create a new database, which is a bit of a hassle. Let's go and look at a MAC code. How recent? MAC codes are self-written barcodes by myself, and there are also items that have multiple items. So you can see this has a quantity of 4 anchors. If I go to your cistern rubber, you'll see that there is a couple of items. There's your small washer and a ball cock cistern. So you can see how all the information rolls back into itself. That part is very important, creating a kit with multiple items. So I'll be able to just keep adding items to this, and it would be represented as a package at this barcode. It calculates it all perfectly and drags it in and out of the system, so it's actually a pretty popular feature for me. Okay, so we've got that far, we've covered all bits. We will have to cover a bit